there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. The film we are talking about today comes from a time when men wore corduroy flares and wide collars and women wore as little as possible. Yes, we are up to our necks in the British sex comedy era. And is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Secrets of a Superstud. Also known as It's Getting Harder All the Time and Naughty Girls on the Loose. By the mid-1970s, a number of British sex films were attempting to broaden their appeal, with casting that extended to familiar names from the worlds of light entertainment and TV sitcoms. But there were also films that stuck to their guns and preferred to play only to the core man-in-the-Mac British sex film audience. Such is the case with Secrets of a Superstud, which represents the British sex film in its most undiluted form. A film conceived purely with the Dirty Mac Brigade in mind, and made by people who knew that audience like the backs of their hands. Secrets of a Superstud is a star vehicle for an actor called Anthony Kenyon, who may have been a little long in the tooth compared to such young bucks as Robin Asquith and Barry Evans, but was actually an established performer in British sex films by this time, as well as a veteran of like-minded stage parties and TV shows. Kenyon was an unintimidating presence in a film like this. He pretty much looks like the type of 40-something guy you can imagine furtively buying a cinema ticket to a film just like this. To a Dirty Mac audience watching Secrets of a Superstud, it must have felt like one of their own had gotten up from their seat, walked into the cinema screen and became the star of their very own dirty movie. In Secrets of a Superstud, Kenyon plays Custer Firkinshaw, the owner of Bear Monthly magazine, who spends the working day holding nude auditions for next month's issue, shagging his secretaries and taking 3 or 4 models home to his bachelor pad for group sex. Ooh, it's a hard life. Dark clouds are gathering on the horizon for our hypersexual hero though, and through his magazine he hears of a crazy German doctor who has been making waves by claiming that too much sex can render men prematurely sterile, a situation which understandably gives Mr. Custer the fear. At the same time, Custer's uncle passes away, and the uncle's will dictates that Custer must marry and produce a Firkinshaw heir within 8 months, otherwise the uncle's estate goes to Custer's ghastly relatives. Further problems await Custer when he discovers via the German doctor that he only has 13 loads of fertile semen left in him, a situation that his relatives discover about and conspire with a crooked private detective called Bernie Selby to send various sexy women after Custer in order to drain him of those valuable 13 loads of worthwhile semen and prevent him from fathering a child and claiming his inheritance. Custer's randy ways suddenly become his Achilles heel as his relatives scheme to steal away his inheritance and drain Custer's balls in the process. Preposterous and medically questionable as Secrets of a Superstud is, there can be no doubt this was a film very much in touch with a very specific audience. Any middle-aged guy who dreamt of diving headfirst into the permissive society could buy a ticket to this film and play out those fantasies through the Custer Firkinshaw character. Custer's initially enviable position in life of being surrounded by beautiful women who all want to fuck him and living a good life through a pornographic magazine and his uncle's estate, and the lack of worldly responsibility that goes with such a lifestyle, feels very much like middle-aged wish fulfillment. Curiously, however, as much as Secrets of a Superstud plays to the promiscuous fantasies of a middle-aged audience, it doesn't shy away from the fears and concerns of the audience either. The spectre of impotence and sexual failure haunts this film and hangs over the protagonist, and while the film predates AIDS by a number of years, it does seem wrapped with concerns that there will be some price to pay for overindulging in the pleasures of the flesh. Its hero's inner turmoil over the idea of abandoning his promiscuous lifestyle in favour of marriage and fathering a child does seem to echo the concerns of the 1970s male, torn between the promiscuous temptations that the decade offered and an allegiance to the previous generation's emphasis on monogamy, marriage and having children. While it's not above tormenting its audience over the threat of blue balls and the droop, Secrets of a Superstud is an unabashedly cheap, cheeky, smutty form of entertainment, and one of many British sex films to make a case for the genre being the heir apparent to the music halls and seaside postcards of the previous decades. There is the expected abundance of jokes and double entendres here about having it off, getting it up, and a bit of the other, as well as characters with names like Dr. Hardenberger, Miss Effingwell, and of course Custer Firkinshaw himself, so called because, well, Firkinshaw does sound a bit rude. While Secrets of a Superstud script is surprisingly light on puns about its main character's name, this is more than made up for in the plentiful amount of comedy songs on this film's soundtrack, which come courtesy of one Ross McManus, a singer and musician probably best remembered for providing vocals on the R. White's I'm a Secret Lemonade Drinker TV advertising campaign, and for being the father of Elvis Costello. More than just Elvis's dad and a secret lemonade drinker, McManus was also something of the go-to guy when it came to singing the theme tunes to British sex films, and his catchy theme tunes to the likes of Girls Come First, Can I Come Too, and The Over-Amorous Artist are guaranteed to play again and again in your head long after you've seen those films. McManus goes even further beyond the Call of Duty here, providing what must be a virtually concept album's worth of songs that relate the sexual triumphs and failures of the Custer of this film to the general Custer of the American West, with songs that pun about Custer's last stand and Custer being fast on the draws, as well as throwing in impersonations of Elmer Fudd and John Wayne along the way for good measure. Aside from the familiar vocal talents of Mr. McManus, Secrets of a Superstud is never short of the type of character actors who populated British sex films at the time. People who, like Anthony Kenyon himself, were small fries in the larger world of British film and TV, but bigger fish in the small world of British sex films. Assembled as able support to Kenyon here are David Pugh, who played Daft Jamie in the Vernon Sewell sexploitation version of Burke and Hare, and he's pretty much reprising his pug-ugly character from the sex comedy The Love Pill here. Also on hand is the gentlemanly debonair Raymond Young, who played the police inspector in Pete Walker's The Flesh and Blood Show, and the Lothario father in Sex and the Other Woman. There are a number of people like this in this film who are playing to type, if not directly reprising characters from other British sex films in all but name, often giving Secrets of a Superstud the appearance of the British sex film equivalent of a pop supergroup. There are also some surprising casting against types here as well though. David Rayner, who almost exclusively played flamboyant camp gay characters, is unexpectedly sinister and menacing as the Doctor who delivers Custer the bad news, complete with a German accent and an insane hairdo that seems to be anticipating the Princess Leia hairstyle.
We have to nudge and catch your memory back. Nudge as it were your sexual memory.
Also playing against type here is Mark Jones, the hetero hero of Derek Ford's Keep It Up Jack, who here plays Custer's gay friend Peter, a character who, going against expectations from this genre and era, isn't a stereotype or a caricature, but a relatively realistic character and a resourceful, loyal friend who comes to Custer's aid in his hour of need. For a film this blokish and resolutely heterosexual, it is unusual to see a straight character's sexual desires being seen as a failing that he must abstain from, while a gay character's sexuality is seen as a positive, and one which gives him superiority and immunity from the weaknesses towards female flesh that addle his straight best friend. In a genre where gay men were often seen as figures of fun or unwanted sexual threats, the Peter and Custer relationship is surprisingly the most genuine and strongest relationship in this entire movie. Secrets of a Superstud was filmed at Twickenham Film Studios, no less, under the title Custer's 13, a title that I'm convinced was merely a cover to disguise the true nature of the production while they were filming away at Twickenham, and a way of avoiding the prying eyes that they surely would have incurred had they actually filmed this as Secrets of a Superstud. Attention that would have been especially unwanted since this was one of a number of British sex films that were also filmed in a hardcore version. Several years ago I spoke to someone who used to work at Kay's Laboratories and recalled taking a backhander to process an extra reel of this film that was intended for the Scandinavian release version. So whenever you see a British sex film that carries the credit of having been developed by Kay's Labs, it's a likely suspect for having also been shot with additional hardcore footage. The unofficial ringmaster of this saucy yet shambolic circus was a fascinating film industry wheeler and dealer called Alan Selwyn, who was born Alfred Lopez Salcedo and was by all accounts something of a real-life Arthur Daly character, a man forever up to his neck in dodgy deals, but who wasn't completely without a moral compass. It was no real accident that little Alfred Lopez Salcedo would grow up to become Alan Selwyn, writer, manager and production coordinator of many a British sex film. Selwyn's father, who used the professional name Sid Brandon, had been a music hall artiste in the 1940s and later went on to become the stage manager of the famous Windmill Theatre, and Selwyn was effectively raised in an atmosphere of tits and titters. Although he comes across as a rather reluctant actor, Selwyn was persuaded in front of the camera on several occasions, usually playing sex shop managers or shady film producers, roles which pretty much serve as an autobiographical portrait of the man himself.
I've got my professional status to drink on. I might get elected. Who's betting it? And what for, I'll do it.
Selwyn unusually seems to have been bitten by the acting bug here, and gives himself the larger than usual role of Bernie Selby, the crooked private detective who comes complete with a little black book full of the phone numbers of girls who are only too happy to pull sexy stunts for him. Not unlike the real-life Alan Selwyn, who represented many a British sex film actress, and no doubt cast this film by consulting such a book in real life.
Jeffrey, is that you, Bernie? Hey, I did a full-timer last night. That's going to cost you £100.
Oh, that's okay, don't worry.
Alright, I see you guys. Bye.
At times it feels as if Selwyn and Kenyon were in competition with each other over who can be the biggest exhibitionist in this film. Kenyon at one point dresses up as a fully grown baby, completely diaper, while Selwyn gets into blackface for the scene in which Bernie Selby masquerades as a foreign door-to-door salesman.
Now, I do not sell coffee. I do not sell perfume. I am selling peace and tranquility.
At the end of the day though, Secrets of a Superstud is Anthony Kenyon's big moment in the limelight, and with a role that required multiple sex scenes between him and Alan Selwyn's harem, and a reel's worth of hardcore action, Secrets of a Superstud is, if nothing else, a tribute to the man's stamina. Kenyon more than earns the title accolade of Superstud, and Twickenham Film Studios, for one, will never see his like again.
But you're not.
Well, that just about wraps things up for now, so all that remains for me to say is good night, God bless, and keep it up.